Hey, welcome to the Sports Unfolded NHL Ranking Show. I am your host, Eric. My main man over there, my hockey guru, Ron. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing quite well, ready to go. Yeah, it'll be a new team this week, right?
Yeah, it seems like that's been the theme the last couple weeks. We did go now to the very exciting top 10.
Yes.
So, not only are we going to piss off more people because now we've included them in 10 where they feel like they should have been higher. But there's people that said, how can these teams not be in the top 10? So it's been pretty interesting, the reaction we've gotten out there. But let's bring the list up so we can kind of discuss that first and then go from there. So I like the new look of it too. I really do.
I do. I do.
I think that's gonna be our new look for a while, my friend. So the New York Rangers came in at number 10, the Minnesota Wild at 9, the Washington Capitals at 8, Winnipeg Jets at 7, at 6, the New Jersey Devils, the Dallas Stars at 5, Tampa Bay Lightning at 4, the Toronto Maple Leafs at 3, Carolina Hurricanes at 2, and the Boston Bruins at 1. Sorry about that technical difficulty there. Um, so, Ron, first off, you did mention there was a team that was left off that seemed to be the most controversial, and that was the Vegas Golden Knights. Any particular reason why?
Well, I got people pounding on the door for some reason.
Would you like to answer that door, and I can take you off for a second?
No, screw it.
Okay.
Screw it. Let's do it. Let's do this. Look, you know, Vegas, I left off the list. Okay, there's nobody in the Pacific Division in this top 10. Vegas, I had at number 10 last week. But when you lose two games in the week and being Los Angeles and Anaheim that they lose to, I couldn't put them in. Couldn't put them in. Sorry, Vegas. You've got to show more against the rest of the league except for your division. They were playing well at the beginning of the season. And at one point, we even had them in the top 5. And they're just not good right now. They're in a slump. I expect them to be in the top 10, but it isn't this week.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, so let's begin with that number 10 team, and that's the New York Rangers. 21, 12, and 6 on the season. 9, 7, and 4 at home, 12, 5, and 2 on the road. 127 goals for, 108 goals against. They're a plus 19, 7, 2, and 1 in their last 10. So they've played well in the last 10 games. Games at Montreal, at New Jersey, and then home for Minnesota the next 3. Panarin's doing a great job for them. 44 points, 33 assists, leads the team. And then Shesterkin, can I say, is having an average year. If you think about his numbers, 18, 6, and 5. So a pretty good record, but a 2.43 goals against and a 917 save percentage. That might be some of the reason why they're struggling here. I mean, obviously in the playoffs, we know what he was able to do and what he's capable of. Is this just, again, some of that playoff rust, and they know they're going to be in, so they're kind of just taking it easy right now?
Yeah, it's look, they're having a good season. They're 20 plus wins is 20 plus wins. And right now there's a big log jam, of teams that are in that same spot when you're looking at 11, 12 losses. Those teams are a log jam, and Vegas on the outside with those 12 losses. But the Rangers are on the inside of that, and they were a little higher, frankly. But last week they lost to Washington and Tampa Bay, both now higher than them. Washington wasn't at the time, but Washington has been playing really well. Um, and they salvaged their week by beating Florida, and they played Carolina. After the rankings came out, I believe it. I don't know if it was last night or the night before. The days are all a blur to me. so, you know, with that, they landed at the number 10 spot. I think they're I think they're still a team that should be in that top five, but there's a lot of teams that are in that clump, and they have to show more. They have to show more.
Yeah, I mean, anything from probably I'd say 10 to 15. Honestly, all those teams could kind of bounce around a little bit,
Absolutely. You're
and
going to see a lot of teams like trying to get into that top 10 that are good teams. Vegas, Pittsburgh, Colorado, and the Islanders.
yeah,
I left out LA because I don't really think they're that good.
yeah, that was a little bit of controversy as well. No Pacific teams that
Yeah, no,
actually made
they
it,
don't deserve it right now.
so I found that interesting as well. So
Yeah,
at number 9, very interesting, the Minnesota Wild, 22-13-2, 12-7-1 at home, 10-6-1 on the road. 121 goals for, 103 against, plus 18, 8-2 in their last 10. So playing very well as of late. But
yeah,
it could be a tough week at Buffalo, St. Louis at home, and then at the Rangers. So that's going to be a big game to see.
yeah,
Maybe one of these teams bounces to, either down or up. Uh, we talk about the goaltending play here, and I looked at, Marc-Andre Fleury and Philip Gustavsson, and
yeah,
they're kind of splitting time. And actually, if you look at the numbers of Fleury, 13-8-1, 2.81 goals against, a 904 save percentage, while Gustafsson is 9-5-1 with a 2.25 goals
yeah.
against and a 924 save percentage. Fleury was supposed to be the key for this team to be successful. And yet you're not seeing. I mean, is age a factor? Is it just maybe the team and the defense they play behind, in front of them?
Look, when Minnesota started the season, they came out. They were horrible, and in all aspects of the game, not just goaltending, but they were terrible defensively. They were terrible offensively when the season started. And they've slowly gathered themselves and put themselves together a season that is just getting better and better. And right now, they're giving Gustafsson some time, between the pipes, and that does two things. It gives Marc-Andre Fleury, you know, an easier load of schedule as opposed to getting a lot of games in, being that guy that's in there constantly and maybe too much, and then he gets tired into the playoffs. This is going to give him, a lot of time, to sit back and, take it relatively easy for a season. And he's going to be their number one guy going into the playoffs. That I don't doubt at all. And I think his season will just keep getting better because it has recovered a lot. And now they see that they have a goaltender for the future as well. So, I think Minnesota's really good, and they might push that Western Conference really well this year. And we thought they were a really good team last year, and I think they're going to be better this year.
Yeah, anyway, Thriller Krill, 47
Oh,
points,
he's
22
so
goals,
good.
25 assists, leads the team in all 3 categories. So,
Yeah.
they've got a superstar. Again, if to your point, they figure out that goaltending situation, I mean, the West is anybody's guess right now. There's no teams that
Right.
really dominate, so
Right.
they're right in the mix with all the other teams. So
Yeah, and when you look at their week, they beat Winnipeg, which is a very good win, team that's ahead of them in the standings. They lost to Dallas. Dallas is probably the best team in the West right now. And then they went and took care of business and beat St. Louis. So like this team is going to beat the teams that they're supposed to. And then, they're going to play those teams that are ahead of them really well, and they can beat anybody.
yeah, I mean, I like the team. I think they're really good. So
Yeah.
yeah, it'd be interesting to just see if they can make a run. So at number 8, the Washington Capitals, they're 21-13-6, 12-5-3 at home, 9-8-3 on the road. 131 goals for, 113 goals against, a plus 18, 7-1-2 in their last 10. At Columbus this week, Nashville and Columbus again at home. So Nashville sandwiched in between Columbus. Alex Ovechkin, we know what he's doing, the records he's breaking, leads the team in points and goals, 28 goals. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the goaltending. So they picked up Darcy Kemper,
Yeah.
Stanley Cup, goaltender from the Colorado Avalanche.
Right.
And it seems like Lindgren is playing a little better. I mean, he's got a better goals against. The save percentage is about even. How important is Kemper to this team's success if they are going to make a run in the playoffs? It's been one of the knocks on the Capitals, right? With Ovechkin, one Stanley Cup in his career there. And a lot of it's been because they just haven't had a solid defense or goaltender in the pipes to kind of help them take over that, that championship. Can the Capitals do it with Kemper?
See, the situation with Kemper last year with Colorado is a lot different than with Washington. Look, I think that Darcy Kemper is a pretty good goaltender. Do I think that he could carry a team to win a Stanley Cup? No, I don't think he can. But Washington has a lot of talent on that team. They are aging talent, and they have some injuries as well. Frankly, I'm really surprised that this team has done this well this season. I don't know if it's sustainable. I think it's a very streaky team. It's it's basically Alex Ovechkin, how far he can carry this team, put him on his shoulders, and right now he's playing really well. Um,
But you're asking a
I
lot, right? What's he, 38, 30?
Yeah, you're really asking a lot of this team. And look, they've been playing fantastic hockey lately. Let's be honest with that. But I think it's going to be streaks with this team. So, you'll have a streak now that they're playing well, and then they're going to go into a slump, and then it's only when Ovechkin will pull them out of that slump. So, I don't think that they'll finish within the top 10, but it looks like they could make the playoffs. It's going to be really between what happens with Pittsburgh and their injuries and the Islanders and, Washington. I think those are the teams that right now we're looking at that are trying to scramble for that last spot in
In the East.
that division. Yeah.
So let me ask you this question, or just an opinion before we move on to the next team. We talk a lot about in the NBA, the big three, you try to form like this. Can one player carry a team? So like Ovechkin, what he's doing, you see that one superstar in hockey a lot of times that's able to carry a team. We just talked about Thrill the Krill and what he's able to kind of do for Minnesota. Do you feel like hockey, it's more about one individual that the success of a team?
For the most part, no. But when you get a team that can hang around in a game if you're only down by a goal, you only need that one player just to come up big. And it could be a power play. It could be, all it takes is one shot to get that game locked up. And when you have an Ovechkin, you have that guy. He's going to get his chances throughout the game. And, when you keep hanging around, and like the Washington Capitals have, they kept hanging around in games. And then if you give them an opportunity, he capitalizes on that. No pun intended, you
Yeah,
know.
that was pretty good.
But that's what he does. That's what makes Ovechkin a Hall of Famer to be.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
it's a lock.
yeah, no, it is a lock, and anybody
He
that
could be
doesn't
one of
vote
those.
for him is
Yeah,
ridiculous.
he could be one of those guys you put in now, even though he's still playing.
No, no,
We're going to bring that back up. No, we're not going to do that right now.
no.
Check out Sports Unfolded if you want. Winnipeg Jets at number 7, 24-13-1, 14-6 at home. Very good at home. 10-7-1 on the road. 121 goals for, 97 goals against. So pretty good defensively. Plus 24, 6-4 in their last 10. We talk about Hellebuck and the season he's having 19-9-1, 2.31 goals against, a 9.28 save percentage. And then Kyle Connor is actually leading the team in points. He's got 16 goals, 28 assists for 44 points. What don't we know about the Winnipeg Jets? Why are they kind of that team under the radar?
Yeah, because they don't like you said, kind of has 16 goals leading the way, right? So they're getting it from everywhere, and they're playing solid defense, and they're getting great goaltending from Hellebuck. And when you have those things in play, it isn't just one guy that's going to go out there and do it for them. They have a good cast like Blake Wheeler. Even though he's no longer captain, he's still a really solid player, and he's going to do a lot of good things at both ends of the ice. He's a big guy that can cover a lot of space. So when you get players that come in there, say like McDavid, Blake Wheeler can take up a lot of that space that he's used to skating all over the place. And when you have a big body constantly on you, those players tend to not be able to do the things that they want to, and they're clogging up all the the ice in the middle of the net, so they're not giving up a whole lot of quality chances in that slot area, and therefore they're they're cleaning it up. And Hellebuck, I mean, he's too good of a goaltender, for you to have no space to shoot
Yeah,
at him.
yeah.
So he's going to do he's going to do the job that is needed, and then some. So when you're giving up those rare chances, then he's cleaning that up. And the Winnipeg Jets is playing a solid team game right now.
So right now, second best West team on this list. Would you say they could win the Western Conference? Are they a legitimate contender
Like
for it?
anybody can win that Western Conference, and I've been hopping on them for now 2 years. Um, but I mean, like, there's good teams there. I mean, we know Dallas has a good team, but they're defensive. They don't have that explosiveness. Winnipeg doesn't have that explosiveness either. So, like, one of those two teams can definitely come out of this. The team that they should be frightful of are the two teams behind them, and that's Minnesota and Colorado. Colorado, still suffering from that Stanley Cup hangover. But
And
they
the
are
big
hanging
injury, right?
around there, and
And
that is
McKinnon,
not what you want.
yeah, McKinnon's been out for a few weeks now,
Right.
so that's hurt them.
Yeah.
They're
Injuries
not
to
healthy.
Langeskog. I mean,
Yeah, so yeah, again, and Colorado knows how to win. So if they could get in, I guess to your point,
yeah, and they're
right?
going to make the playoffs. I find it hard to believe Colorado will drop out of the playoff race. They're too good to, to miss the playoffs.
Yeah, so I guess
And
basically what we're saying is right. The Western Conference is really not no clear cut favorite because some of the teams that are right now
right.
not a top 10 team are still
Yeah.
very
Yeah, Colorado
comparable.
is very much in the picture. They're way down right now at number 14, but they're not going to be a 14 team. They'll be. I still think they belong in that top five. They belong in that
If
top
fully
five.
healthy, yeah, and
Yeah, and once they shake off the rust,
yeah. So
and they will.
at number 6, this team is just consistently falling now. That it's think about this, the way they started the season and what's happened recently. But the New Jersey Devils, 24-11-3, 11-4-3 at home. I'm sorry, 10-9-2 at home, 14-2-1 on the road. Play very well on the road.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's kind of funny to hear that because when you have a young team, you would think that
they play better at
maybe
home. Yeah,
playing at home would be better, and they'd be awful on the road.
yeah. They're one game
Um,
over 500 at home.
yeah, and it's been totally the opposite.
Yeah,
So, but I think this team is starting to shake it off. Even though they took a couple of losses last week, but when you look at those losses, one was Boston, one was Carolina. They played pretty well in those games for the most part. So I think their game is starting to come back. And I even moved them up a spot, I believe, for that, even taking two losses.
two,
But it was to the top
quality
two
teams.
teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always say this though, tough week ahead, St. Louis and then Rangers at home.
Yeah.
and at Carolina. So before our next rankings, again, playing the Rangers, playing Carolina, that's going to be a tough matchup.
Yeah, it's going to be a telltale sign of what we're going to see from New Jersey this season.
Yeah,
They got so look, that division is tough. When you have Carolina, Washington, the Rangers, Pittsburgh, Islanders, all in that division, and when you have Columbus, who has been awful this year, but they have a
they
couple
have
of
talent.
players.
Yeah,
Yeah, so like there's no this is not a cupcake schedule.
yeah, and again, to your point, they're a young team. I think they didn't really realize what they were in.
Yeah,
So at the beginning, it's just like, oh, this is all great, and now you're starting to see the competition play a little better.
yeah,
Players getting their legs under them now on some of these other teams, and that's some of the struggles. I mean, they're 3-6-1
right.
in their last 10, so they've got to figure out. They've got to at least stay over 500.
Yeah,
Split.
this team is going to be good for a long time. They have so much young, good talent. It's just when they're going to really put it together. And we
Yeah,
know that they played well at the beginning of the season, but it has fallen off. But we'll see if they can hang on into this top 10 for the rest of the season and make the playoffs. Right now, they're sitting pretty good right now, but it's a lot of talent behind them
yeah, and a lot of hockey love.
and a lot of hockey.
I was trying to do the math earlier before we started the show, and I'm like, we're not even halfway through the
No,
season. So,
no.
you're still about another week or two away from being halfway through. Um, Jake Hughes, 44 points, 22 goals for the Devils. What can you tell the fans out there about him?
Jack Hughes.
Jack, I'm sorry.
Uh, kid's going to be an all-star probably this year. But he's going to be a perennial all-star. This kid has so much talent. Imagine if they have a goaltender like Martin Brodeur in the
Back in
pipes.
the yeah,
This team could be very scary in the next year or two. Um, like everybody's trying to catch up. Carolina is in that window right now. It's eventually going to fall off, and the way it looks, it could be the Rangers in New Jersey taking this division,
for
for
years to come. Yeah,
years to come.
yeah, yeah. So we're gonna move on to our top five here, and we'll bring the list up real quick again. So that'll be the Dallas Stars at 5, Tampa Bay Lightning at 4, Toronto Maple Leafs at 3, Carolina Hurricanes at 2, and the Boston Bruins at 1. And we're going to discuss those teams now in the top 5. And I know how excited you are about the Dallas Stars and those fans and a little bit of banter that we've had going on for the last couple of weeks. So 23, 11, and 6, 11, 4, and 3 at home, 12, 7, and 3 on the road, 139 goals for, 109 goals against, a plus 30 so far for the season, 6, 3, and 1 in their last 10. They got games at home against Florida, and then they're on the road to face the Islanders. We've
Yeah.
talked about Jason Robertson, what a season he's having, pretty much carrying this team, 55 points, 26 goals, 29 assists, leads the team in all three categories. And Ottinger, as I would say, is not the season we would expect based off of what we saw in the playoffs. Still a completely great season when it comes to record, 17, 6, and 3. 2.39 goals against and a 9.20 save percentage. Obviously, these two guys are pretty much the key to this team. Can the Dallas Stars hold on to this top spot in the West? And if not, what's going to be the reason why that?
Well, if Robinson gets cold, when he goes into a slump, and it generally happens to everybody, there are some players that just don't stay in slumps. But I don't think he's, that kind of, he's not a McDavid, you know, and I'll throw out his name. He's not a Sidney Crosby.
You love going after Sid the Kid.
I'm not going after. I'm actually giving him credit because he doesn't
Okay.
go into slumps like that.
Okay. All right. Hey, there's a first.
You know, I mean, what you're gonna get maybe 2 games out of those guys if you're lucky, without a point. If you're lucky,
Yeah.
So, but Robertson, I don't think he's that kind of a player. I put him into the category of Kirill and Pasternak. When if they don't score a goal, it could be a couple of days. 2, 3, 4 days, and if that prolongs, then you can look at a team going into a slump if they don't have that scoring, because then you have to get shutouts every day, and
Not
that's
easy to
not
do.
easy. Um, so look, I fear for Dallas because, like I said, I think Minnesota and Colorado are better teams. And once Colorado gets their act together, and I think Minnesota is already getting their act together, I think those two teams are going to climb over Winnipeg and Dallas, to be
All right.
honest with you. And I would expect Vegas to as well.
So again, to our point, and this is the last West team we talk about. Western Conference so wide open that these teams could be interchanging for the next, months
Yeah,
ahead for us, and we'll see. We'll see. I mean, Ottinger again with his playoff run and what he was able to do, even though they lost in that first round, he basically, I mean, he was unreal when it came to his save
right.
percentage in that
And that's
series.
the thing. Like these teams, like Dallas and Winnipeg and Vegas, and I'll call them out. Um, they're better than most of the teams in the West. Like they're better, but they need to play against the East a little better. It seems like whenever they play a lot of those games, they're taking losses, and those are the losses that they're taking. They're taking the ones, you know, um, against the Eastern Conference, and that's not that's not good. And
Yeah,
that's
no,
why that's why there's only 3 teams in the top 10 from the West.
yeah, no, makes sense. Makes sense for sure. So Tampa Bay Lightning at 4, 24, 12, and 1 on the season, 15, 4, and 1 at home, 9 and 8 on the road. They're a plus 23, so 131 goals for, 108 goals against, 7 and 3 in their last 10 games at Winnipeg, and then Columbus at home. Vasilevsky, 16, 9 and 1, 2.42 goals against, and a 9.21 save percentage. And then Kucherov has been there pretty much steady Eddie when it
Yeah,
comes to points, 54 points, 41 assists on the season. We continue to say at some point Tom Brady's going to fall off a cliff with the age. Tampa Bay Lightning have been doing this for quite some time now. Last 3 years in the Stanley Cup, a lot of hockey played. How are they still so consistent? And is this the year, Ron, where again, I don't want to say it because that other network says it sometimes, but is this the year they fall off the cliff? Is this the year with all the tough Eastern Conference teams?
well, it looks like it, but I mean, we can't count them out until it happens, right? Um, Now, when you look at that, the plus minus goals, um, it's kind of close, right? It's
Yeah,
not like
23. And again, if you look at some of the top teams,
right. So but this is the thing, they're winning those close games though.
yeah, one
And
overtime loss. So you think about it, they if they
right,
get in the game, they're either winning or losing. They're not keeping it.
right. And a lot of those wins have been closer. Um Look, I mean, you can see Vasilevsky's numbers are starting to get better. Like when you say that he has a 920, you
Yeah,
know,
which is
uh,
good.
2 point,
Phenomenal.
whatever it was, what was it, 2.3,
2.42. Yeah.
2.42, and it was a lot higher than that. If I recall, it was like somewhere around 2.8 not too long ago. So those numbers are improving, and they are playing good hockey. They're winning a lot of games. Um, they haven't moved, out of this top five, in several weeks now. Matter of fact, they are right where they were last week.
Yeah, all 5 teams stayed the same this week.
Yep. Um, they're all playing well. All these 5 teams are still playing well. So nobody's really taking an advantage of another team. So they're not really going anywhere. Um, and that is what we're finally seeing. Like we weren't seeing this all season long. Like some some teams that have been consistently good.
Yeah.
Like it was mostly Boston, and then Vegas fell off, New Jersey fell off. Now it's Carolina up there, and they've been consistent. But now you're seeing Dallas, Tampa Bay, also being consistent and consistently good, and that is going to make it for some great playoff hockey
Yeah.
when it
Oh,
comes
the
around.
Eastern Conference is just going to be unreal. And again, they know how to win. So how do you count them out at any point until you see them
That's right.
face
That's
until they're
right.
out? Yeah, I mean, they were down what 3-1 last year in
Yeah,
some of the series, and they came back and won
right.
all those series. So
Toronto knows that pretty well.
yeah. So speaking of Toronto, they're our number 3 team,
They're
and
number
my
three.
pick, and I believe my pick in the NHL preview show as the Stanley Cup champions. So if you see what they're doing right now, 23-8-7, 13-2-4 at home, 10-6-3 on the road. 130 goals for, 100 goals against, so a plus 30, 6-3-1 in the last 10. Seattle and Detroit at home this week, and then at Philadelphia. So very winnable games.
Oh yeah, they should win all of those games.
Yeah. Nylander leading the team in points at 45, first in goals at 22. But I would say Austin Matthews and Mitchell Marner are right behind him now at 44 and 43. So they're getting a three-headed monster. I'm excited about this team. And they're getting very solid goaltending play. So Samsonov, 11-3-1, 2.38 goals against, a 9.14 save percentage. And Matt Murray, the backup, 9-3-2 with a 2.44 goals against and a 9.20 save percentage. So they're definitely getting production from which was the key. If they got solid goaltending, I felt like this could be the team that could possibly, with the scoring of Matthews or the ability of Matthews to score.
Yeah, and you had mentioned earlier the big three, right? This is
Yes.
this is probably the big three of the NHL right now. With Marner, Matthews, and Nylander. Um, but they also have Tavares. so it's like you have that fourth guy coming out, and as long as he can chip in, you know that leads to great things. At least in the NBA it does, right? Um but there's that little cloud that follows Toronto into the playoffs, and when crazy things can happen, that's where it usually happens, is to
Yeah.
Toronto. And their goaltending is playing well right now. They're playing really well at home. They are going to be tough to beat at home. So if you translate that into playoffs, they need home ice.
Yeah.
They need home ice, or they're not going to make it further. So if they can hold that goal, if they goaltending can play like this, good things can happen to Toronto. But the problem is, I don't know if that is going to translate into playoff wins, because you got to get those dirty goals. You got to get those um, that that scrums in front of your own net cleaned up. And this is where they have those kind of problems, because playoff time is different than regular season.
So could you see this team realistically make any move at the trade deadline, trying to get a defenseman or somebody that, to your point,
I
is
think
that
they need to. They need to. If they don't, if they go offensive skill in the trade deadline, then they're going to have the same problem as they have every year. They can't scrape and claw, and that's what playoff hockey is, and they don't know how to do that, and that's the problem.
we'll see if this is the year, my friend.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. They have the scoring.
They
They
definitely have
have
the
the
offensive
scoring.
talent. So Carolina Hurricanes, a team you're extremely high on. Actually, if you've watched enough of our shows now, you think they have more talent than the Boston Bruins, and you feel like this could be the team in the East.
Not
This
sure
is that
about that.
that was your words. 25-7-6 on the season. 12-3-1 at home, 13-4-5 on the road. So very good road and home record. 121 goals for, 99 goals against, so plus 22, 1-0 in their last 10, so they're playing extremely good hockey right now.
Yeah.
Games this week: home for Nashville, at Columbus, and then home for New Jersey. Very winnable games. They're getting solid goaltending play from Kuchekov.
Yep.
10-2-4, 2.08 goals against, a 9.24 save percentage.
Yeah, not bad.
Aho missed some games. I think he's missed 8 games this season, and still with 30 points, he's second on the team in point, or on the team in points. So they're getting the play that they're experienced as well. Is Carolina again? I keep asking you now. So you're moving the Bruins ahead of Carolina?
Well, it's kind of crazy to see this. See, like I think the Bruins have better top end.
So
I
Carolina's
think
deeper. They're a deeper team, is what you're
I
saying.
just think Carolina plays deeper.
Okay.
It's like there's little intangibles that Carolina can do that I don't think any other team can really do. And I mean, when you look at this cast of characters on this team, they have some talent. They have a lot of talent. But it's one of those teams that it is the team philosophy of what they're doing. And you got to give Brindamore like all the credit for this. That guy knows how to win. He knows how to clean up their, like, nobody cleans up their own end like they do. They're that good defensively. And you have to capitalize on every opportunity you get because you don't know when the next one is coming. And that is the way they play. And and like I said, I think Boston on paper, you look at those names, uh, I think on paper they're better. I mean, they have Pasternak, Marchand, Bergeron, Hall, Krejci. I mean, there's a lot of talent there. Like, I mean, I look at Sebastian Aho as their best player, and it's like where would he be in Boston? You know, fourth, fifth.
So it's interesting to see,
It
right?
is interesting,
I would say.
but I still think Carolina is the better team.
So let me ask you this: we always talk about the window, and it closes quickly on teams. Carolina's been pretty consistent on the last couple of years. Almost last season, made that run and could have possibly gotten there, right? And they
Yeah,
beat the Bruins in the playoffs last year, if
yeah,
I'm not
7
mistaken,
games.
right? So can this be? Is the window closing? Like if they don't get it this year, could we start to see that decline in Carolina? Like you said, some of these younger teams that are coming up, New Jersey's, the Rangers, even Philadelphia, who's kind of fallen off, but is still a young team
I would
that's making
have
some.
to I would have to look at the salaries for Carolina, see who's going to be up next year. Haven't done that. Um, if they don't have salary issues, I think this team can go for a while because I mean nobody's really too old. You don't have the guys like Bergeron and Krejci, like Boston has.
Yeah,
So
pretty
Boston
much.
could, and with Pasternak as potentially could walk. I don't think he will. I think they're going to sign him. It's just a matter of how much, and then what it's going to cost them in players next year. So Boston is in more trouble cap wise than Carolina. Um, I think they can still hang around for maybe a couple of years. Then once all those defensemen start needing new contracts, I think that's when they're going to have the problem.
Gotcha. So let's talk about the Boston Bruins, who have pretty steadily remained number one this season. 29-4-4, 19-0-3 at home. Still, I still call it unblemished at home, even though we count the overtime losses. Assists 10-4-1, away 10-4-1, 140 goals for, so one of the top scoring teams in the league. 83 goals against, a plus 57, which is unreal when you think about so far. You know what I mean? What are we at 33 games in, 37 games in? 7-0-3 in their last 10. So they pretty much have made sure they continue to stay hot. At West Coast trip this week at LA. So the Kings, San Jose, and Anaheim all on the road. Pasternak, what he's been able to do for this team, leads the team in points, goals, and assists. 25 and 25 for the goals and assists. But Linus Ullmark, every time we expect this team to come back down to earth, this guy has somehow carried them through a game, and he's won 21, lost one, and has one overtime loss.
Yeah,
A
it's amazing.
185 goals against, a 939 save percentage. We talk about goalies having to stand on their heads in the playoffs. My question to you would be this: is this too early in the season for his success that you could ultimately worry about what happens in the playoffs?
I don't think so. I'm starting to see that this team is very resilient in a game. Um, they even though you know their schedule seems to be a little lopsided with those back to backs, and New Jersey benefited from those back to backs twice already against Boston, but yet couldn't beat them. Um, and like the team is just resilient during a game. It's like almost like, okay, we need to get another gear and let's do it. And then they do it. And you have several guys that have been able to jumpstart the team. Felino is one of those guys, and Frederick is another. When something isn't there for Boston, those two guys seems to step up and get a big hit or a big shift, and it propels Boston to step on the gas and turn it on whenever they want. And they have their own three-headed beast, but it's more like a hydra because it could come at you from several places. Like we always think Pasternak, Bergeron, Marchand, that's their three-headed monster, right? But you also have Jake DeBrusk, who's coming
Yeah.
in, and
And you
he
think about where
has
he was
benefits
last year,
so much. Oh my God,
right?
he wanted
They
to
were,
leave.
it was a trade talks, and the coaching changes definitely benefited probably him
Yeah,
more
as
than
soon as that
anybody
coaching
else.
change happened, he waived his trade
Trade,
request, and that changed everything for this team because now you have DeBrusque on that first line with Bergeron and Marchand, and now you have Krejci with Hall and Pasternak. Sometimes it's Zaka. They do the check line, and so they have guys that are moving in and out of there, and then if they just don't have the legs, they just swap guys on the lines, and then you have the perfection line back all of a sudden, and Jake DeBrusk is with Krejci, and that seems to work as well. So it doesn't matter where they put these guys on the line, something always happen.
yeah.
It is a
I think
tough team to shut down completely.
Yeah, I think this team has great chemistry. It's been the one
Absolutely.
thing that, again, you follow it a lot more than I do. The games that I have seen, or some of the moments I've watched, where look, they go down 1-0 or 2-1 in a game, and somehow that's when they just flip the switch,
Yeah.
and everybody plays a little harder. They all understand the importance of what they're trying to do, and it's just funny. I don't know if they're rallying around some of those veterans as well and
Yeah.
saying, "Look, I know this may be one of their final chances to get to a cup."
Yeah, and I think that is where you hit the nail on the head with that, Eric. I mean, yeah, we all know Bergeron, is playing it year by year, but I think it's more of the Krejci thing. And I think this team wants to win this year because Krejci is here, and they know that he's not going to play much longer. Like this could be it for him this season.
Yeah, he was out of hockey last year. He decided to make a
So
comeback this season.
And these players, a lot of them have played with Krejci for a long time, and they respect the player, and he's a dynamic player. If he had Pasternak on his right side, his whole career, the guy would probably be going to the Hall of Fame. That's how good he is. And there's just no hole on this team right now. Everybody's doing their job, and from top to bottom. Like there isn't any, and they have guys that are coming in and out of the lineup, like Greer and Craig Smith. They keep swapping, and no matter who's in there, they're doing their job. They might not be scoring goals, but they're doing their job. And that is what this team has done. It's just hard to keep this team out of the column because of
Yeah.
they don't slump.
Yep.
Like you have too many veterans that just have this incredible desire that you're not going to fall into like this massive losing streak. I can't see it. I can't
No,
see it.
no, they've done it all season so far. So every time we start to say, "Hey, this is going to be the week. This is a tough week," right?
Yeah.
Again,
No,
this week is not. I mean, they're in the West. In the West,
and don't
again,
get
to
me
your point,
wrong, I don't think that they'll finish number one on this list at the end of the season. I
wow,
don't even feel that they're
that's
going to
some
finish
breaking
two.
news. Okay, really?
I think that they will stay in the top five the whole year.
Okay.
But
Hmm.
you know, I
Wow.
mean, there's a lot of good teams out there, so it's hard. And I haven't analyzed their schedule so much as to,
When's
there's
that?
going to be weeks. There's going to be weeks where they're going to have to play, maybe like Toronto, Tampa Bay, Carolina, in the same week. That's a tough schedule.
And to your point, aging team.
Right.
So opportunity where again, guys may have some injuries that pop up. Hopefully, nothing severe. But again, that's part of hockey. So you
Yeah.
have to factor that in, especially based on the age of the team. They're not a
Right.
young team.
So, I mean, with that being said, I mean, do I think that they're going to contend? Yeah, I think they can contend. I think, you've got a handful of teams in the East that are contenders in Carolina, Rangers, Boston, Tampa Bay, and Toronto. Those are the teams that I think that it's going to come down to. No knock on Pittsburgh, no knock on Washington, and that's about it. That's all I see.
All right, let's bring this list back up for a second before we go into our "Do You Remember" segment. And at number 10, you had the New York Rangers. At 9, the Minnesota Wild. At 8, the Washington Capitals. At 7, Winnipeg Jets. 6, the New Jersey Nets rounded out the
New Jersey, what?
New Jersey Devils,
Nets.
not the Nets.
Nets.
I'm going way back old school. Let's talk at the top 5 here, and that's the Dallas Stars at 5, Tampa Bay Lightning at 4, Toronto Maple Leafs at 3, Carolina Hurricanes at 2, and the Boston Bruins remaining at number 1. Ron, I know you said it, but teams that should be worried this week to not remain on this list, and what teams possibly could be on this list next week if we were going to watch.
Well, because of their schedule, I'd have to worry about the Rangers because, I mean, they do have a New Jersey game coming up. And they played
Minnesota as
Carolina
well. Yeah.
already and Minnesota. So I'd be a little worried about the Rangers. I'd be worried about Washington um, and Minnesota. Yeah, just those bottom three. I think the others will stay in. Well, maybe New Jersey.
Winnipeg too. Tampa Bay this week. That could be a tough game. You know what I mean? At Detroit again. Detroit's okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe
I
those
think they'll be.
those
I think
4.
they'll be okay. I wouldn't worry about Winnipeg.
So next week we could see Vegas in there.
Yeah, you can see Vegas, Pittsburgh and Vegas both were in my top 10 last week. So I mean, as long as they take care of business, then they could get back in because somebody's going to falter. And Colorado isn't that far behind there either. So look for that. And Colorado will be in there eventually.
We'll definitely keep our eyes on that one because that one's been an interesting one. So it's Do You Remember time, Ron, and I try to stump you each week. Kenny did not do so well last night with the basketball. So we'll see if you can beat Kenny 2 weeks in a row and at least gain a point. All these kind of have some kind of Bruins tied to it. Not necessarily Bruins players or teams, but the first
I
question
haven't
does.
done very well at your Bruins questions.
Yes, I noticed. So first question would be, which Bruins goaltender has the best save percentage all time, the history of the team?
Ooh.
So we think about the goaltending performance right now we're seeing from Linus Ullmark. But who has had the best save percentage in the history of the Bruins organization?
Now I know, I believe Tuca's is at 921. That's pretty good. Um, mm, I'm gonna go Pete Peters.
Pete Pears is your guess.
Pete Peters.
Pete Peters?
Yeah, so I guess that's wrong because
I didn't know the name.
they didn't
Yes.
know the name.
All right. So I will tell you this, and I did this to Kenny yesterday as well, and I do apologize, but it was kind of a trick question because it's actually two players, and it's Tuukka Rask and Tim Thomas, who both
I
have
was
a
going to say
9.2,
Tim Thomas too.
right?
I was going to say it.
And you got the save percentage right, which I'm really impressed with, a
Yeah.
9.21 save percentage. Both all-time leaders in save percentage for the
Yeah,
Boston Bruins.
I figured it was a trick question, and I went with a goaltender that didn't play very long for Boston. Because I remember those "In Peters We Trust" signs up in the stands. And
Yeah.
and he had a really great season for the Bruins, but I guess it wasn't a 921.
Yeah. So no, really, really good. Hey, good guess though. I love the fact that you knew the save percentage for Tuukka. That was pretty impressive though. Still can't give you a point though.
No.
Still can't give you a
No.
point. All right. So if we think about the historic pace that the Boston Bruins are on, 29 victories so far in the season. I wanted to look at, and I'm going to ask you, which team has had the most wins in a season? Who had the all-time wins in a season? And what was the win?
Wow.
What was the wins? How many wins? Because the Boston Bruins right now technically have a unbelievable shot at breaking this record if they continue the pace they're on.
All I can think of is the Chicago Bulls with their 72, and that's gone.
I don't think that the sport though, man.
Yeah, no.
And in the NHL,
And
I don't know if the
so
Bulls played. I
it's
mean, Michael Jordan
making
might have
me-
been pretty good on ice.
It's making me think Chicago Blackhawks, but it's not the Blackhawks. I'm gonna say, oh God, I'm gonna say it's the Edmonton Oilers.
Okay. Do you want to take a guess on how many wins?
I'm gonna say 62.
Oh, wow, you are pretty impressive today with your numbers. I'll give you that much. So, again, a little bit of a trick question. There's been two teams, the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Detroit Red Wings. The 95-96 Detroit Red Wings.
I should have known Detroit.
Run 62, 13, and 7. Pretty good. So you got the 62 right. And then the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2018-19 were 62, 16, and 4.
Yeah, I should get like half points for these numbers that I get.
The numbers,
right?
that's pretty impressive. I will say this: if Boston continues their pace, if they could continue their pace, they very well could have more than 62 victories in the season.
Well, I'd like to see that.
Right. So this is where I was kind of going with some of these. So the final question.
With that being said,
Boston Bruins 19-0-3 at home so far this season. Which team in NHL history had the most home victories in a season? And I will tell you, it was one team. I will give you that this time. There is no two team. One team had the most victories at home all time in the NHL.
I knew this.
Which team was it? And I will tell you right now, again, Boston will definitely have a shot to break this record as well if they continue their pace.
I knew this. Believe it or not, and matter of fact, it was like 2 weeks ago that I actually saw this, on another network.
I'm sure it's coming up because, again, where Boston stands right now, there's a really good chance they could possibly break this record.
They talked about them breaking the record at the beginning of the season.
Yep, for the most wins to start a season. Yes, they did break that record.
and then they said what the actual record was, and I can't remember who the heck it was. Um, I'm. It's it's probably too easy to be this,
Okay.
but I'm gonna say Detroit Red Wings.
Okay. That was pretty fair, right? They had the most wins in a season. Maybe very well could be the most wins at
It's
home.
not though.
Do you want to guess how many wins?
33.
33. Oh, you were close. So close, my friend. So it is the Philadelphia Flyers,
Oh boy.
1975-76. You ready for the record? 36 2-2.
Yeah.
Boston right now 19-0-3.
Yeah. That's pretty
It's
good.
close. It could happen. So yeah, Philadelphia Flyers were actually the all-time winningest
Yeah. You do
team
so
at
well
home
then, huh?
in that season, 75-76. But hey, they're tough questions, my friend. If I gave them to you and they were all easy, nobody'd watch.
That's right. That's right.
But great job as usual.
I should have had
Um,
that goaltender one though.
yes, you should have. You had the
I had
percentage.
him.
You
He was
talked
right
yourself
there.
out of you talked yourself
I
out of two.
talked my I did. I talked myself out of Tim Thomas
Yeah.
actually.
And yesterday was funny because Kenny was the same thing. He said Larry Bird, one of the for the most points all time in a game for the Celtics, and then so he was half right because it was Tatum and Bird, and then
Yeah.
he talked himself out of it and went with Paul Pierce.
Yeah.
So you would have had half a point. You had it, man. You talked yourself out of it.
I did. I
So,
talked myself out
so
of that one.
but
And
I like these. They're fun. It's fun to research and find some of these numbers and I just because of the historical pace that the Boston Bruins are on right now, I thought that would have been a fun one to do just based on
yeah.
some of the things that they're doing. So right now, Linus Olmark at a 939, if he could keep that, it'd probably be a Boston Bruins record for in a season. I'm gonna have to look that up, but that's pretty impressive what he's doing right now from a save
Yeah.
percentage. Ron, this has been Sports and Full at NHL rankings. We do these each week based off of our rankings that come out on Tuesday. I want to thank you always for your hockey insight and doing this list each and every week for Sports Unfolded. It's been so much fun and it's gotten such great reactions, positive and negative, but it's gotten such great reactions. So we're having fun with the NHL coverage. You've enlightened me on hockey and I was talking to somebody the other day and it's probably my third favorite sport right now and it's pushing basketball, the NBA, because NFL has been my love for a long, long time, and I will continue to probably always be an NFL, you know, fan of as my favorite sport. But the NHL is slowly just starting to make those moves because I just love the pace of the game and now that I'm getting insight onto the players and some of that stuff, it's been so much fun. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And when you see more playoffs, that helps.
Yeah,
The playoff hockey is just there isn't anything better than playoff hockey.
agreed, agreed. So we normally do our show every Friday night 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Rhode Island Broadcasting on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. We cover all of the top sports stories going on in the world today. Obviously, we will definitely be covering the DeMar Hamel situation with Buffalo. Big signing for the Boston Red Sox with Devers remaining as a Red Sox for the next 11 years.
Oh wait, they signed an 11 year? I thought it was 1 year.
11-year deal.
Oh, okay.
11-year deal, my friend. He will be a Boston Red Sox for quite some time.
So the article I saw it said 1 year,
He
and I'm
signed a
like, wait a
1-year
minute.
deal for next season, and then they ended up working out a long-term deal. So,
Oh, that's excellent then.
yeah. So
There
so
is
we'll
some hope for the Red Sox then.
yeah we'll definitely discuss some of the New England Patriots and their situation this week, as it's a must-win to get into the playoffs, and that game possibly not even being played. There's a possibility there as well. So we'll talk a lot of different sports all show long. So make sure you tune in. We are fan interactive. We love the fans to join in and make sure that you participate. Follow us on all our social media platforms. You see that ticker down there. It kind of tells you how to do that as well. Ron, I will see you Friday, 6 p.m. I am looking forward to it. I cannot wait, my
That's
friend.
tomorrow.
That is tomorrow. Be ready. Be ready.
I'm ready already.
I'm ready already. All right. So everybody out there that's watched live, thank you. And all the fans that are going to watch afterwards, make sure you just share and follow. We appreciate all you do for Sports Unfolded. Ron, tomorrow night, my friend, all we ask for is peace in this world.
Have a good night, everybody.